7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Manchester
1,
United have
0.
reached the promised land.
Good morning, everybody. How are we all doing? We're playing tonight against Leeds, and that's apparently not the biggest story of the day. We are speaking about the potential of a Qatari full takeover of Manchester United. And I'm using the word full there because every single time we've discussed a possible Qatar takeover of Manchester United until this point, we've spoken about a minority investment. We've spoken about the difficulties of the Qatar sports investment, PSG. How can they own Manchester United? It's a big story that broke last night from Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail. I'll run through the full story with you this morning as a community. And we can also discuss all the nuances, the important points, and we'll speak about it in a lot of detail. For anybody who would like as well, on top of that, I'm going to be doing a video at lunchtime, bringing it all down into 10 minutes. But for this morning, like we do every single day, I'll bring you the latest news and we'll run through it as a community. And this one is a particularly important show because we all know that February is the big month. February is the deadline that has been set by the Rain Group for investors to come forward with their official bids to buy Manchester United. Now, we know that Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are the first group to have gone forward and formalized their interest. We know full well that the likes of Harris and Blitzer, US consortiums, I'm sure there's other US consortiums as well. Now we're hearing about Qatar investment. Nothing on Dubai just yet. And I'll tell you what, if we're going to be getting this from Qatar, I would expect the same thing from Saudi Arabia. I'll run through the full story with you and explain it now. But who's down here in the comments? Let's have a look. God, good morning to you. Not that God. That God too. Jack, we've got Ben Hodgson. We've got Sagar. We've got Paula. How you doing, Paula? We've got Rahman. We've got Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. It is inevitable. Oh, how you doing, buddy? Big up for that 50 yesterday, dude. Man, you're an absolute ledge. Helgon, Jordan, Gascoigne, Daisy. We've got Josh is here. Ant is here. I'm sure there's plenty more regular faces. Olivia, who's on Claus, on Nielsen, who's on Facebook? We've got there's too many of you. I apologize. Danny Woods, not too many, more the merrier. Robin Williams, Mark Fossey. Man, I loved Robin Williams. I was really sad when Robin Williams died. Anyway, let's go straight into this story. Let me run through it all for you. You can let me know what you think in the comments as we progress through the conversation. I'll try and explain all the details. I'm going to try and keep I suppose I'm going to try and keep my opinion out of this. This is me reporting the news. I'll report the important points, but I kind of think you know where I stand about our new owners. I think so anyway. This is the article. Let's run through it. Qatari investors will bid for Manchester United within days and are confident of blowing any competitors out of the water. This is coming from Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail. Now, Mike Keegan, back in the day, I would say, well, that's a little bit harsh. He's not up there on a David Ornstein, James Ducker tier, in my personal opinion. But this is certainly a conversation that we, I suppose, need to discuss because every single time that we've spoken about Qatari investment in Manchester United, you'll remember that I've spoken in detail about this previously. I did a full video on what that would mean, what that would look like. And that was coming specifically from the angle of if Qatar bought Manchester United and Qatar Sports Investment is one of their investment arms. Now, you've got the Qatar Investment Authority as well. Trust me, I know it's a little bit complicated and I will explain this all as the video goes on. So you don't have to let me know about that in the comments. I will explain it as we go through the video. But QSI is the sort of the state of Qatar's investment arm in sports. And that's where the PSG investment came from. Now, what the suggestion here is from Mike Keegan, and this is where it's different. This is why this conversation is different this morning. He's suggesting that it's going to be coming from private investor groups. And that means it's different to the QSI or the QIA potentially, and where this investment's coming from. Now, let's run through the article. As I said, I'm going to try and explain this as much as I can, but it's damn confusing. It really is confusing. And I can understand if you're confused as well. Manchester United are set to receive a massive offer from Qatari investors. The group are confident the bid will blow away rivals, with the Glazers seeking $6 billion. And should the takeover go through, well, we know full well that transfers wouldn't be an issue. Let's read through the article. Qatari investors are planning an incredible mega money swoop. That has to be the most Daily Mail line in the world. Mega money swoop. Anyway, for Manchester United, and want to give Ten Hag the financial backing to lead the club back to the top. Sources have disclosed that a group of private high wealth individuals based in the oil-rich state, buoyed by Qatar's hosting of the World Cup, have set their sights on a club they view as football's crown jewels. Crown jewels or crown jewel? Probably crown jewel. They will make an offer for United in the coming days ahead of the mid-February deadline set by the Glazers and are confident their bid will blow all competition out of the water. Glazers are seeking more than $6 billion for the club. We know full well how much is needed to be invested in a new Carrington, a new Old Trafford. Could take it in excess of $8 billion. That would not be a problem for the Qatari group. Fan engagement is at the heart of their bid. I mean, that sounds like a bit of PR fluff. It's not. Let's be completely honest. Go down here and read a bit more. One potential stumbling block is the Qatar sports investment. And I will, as I said, discuss this in a bit more detail. The bid would come from separate individual Qatari investors. There is no interest in taking a partial stake, with only a full-blown takeover being discussed. Insiders have disclosed that the group want to use the knowledge gained from the World Cup and are seeking a new project. There are significant funds available, it says down here. These people are serious. They want to make sure that United are where they should be, and they are confident theirs will be the strongest bid. I want you to let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. So this is a little summary of what that article is suggesting. All right. I'll try and read a few of your opinions out. I promise. As we go through the show. This is what the roundup of what that article says. That any sort of bid from Qatar will be keen on a quick conclusion. Now, in terms of that, I'll speak about the value of the Al Thani ruling family in Qatar, but I'm not sure. I mean, it's kind of linked to this, but maybe not completely. 8 billion plus redevelopment is not an issue. Confident in winning the bid, interested only in a full takeover. Emir of Qatar apparently is a big United fan. I don't know whether that's true or not. But I think it's Sheikh Hamad Al Thani is the current Emir of Qatar. And the family is rather rich. The only two families, I believe, who are richer are Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia sort of blow everyone out the water. And it goes back. Look, right. If we go over here, we go back up to this article. The thing I have to say here about this is quite important. To begin with, before we dive down here, and I answer some of your comments from the community. As Manchester United fans, we have opposed Middle Eastern ownership for over 15 years. Well, around about 15 years now, since Abu Dhabi bought Man City, because we saw what it did, and now we're seeing this week the illegalities of what they did: underhand payments, secret contracts, everything, blah blah blah. They bought the success that they have, and United fans, we were diametrically opposed to that. And that is true. And you know what else is also true now? It's very hard. It really feels like we've kind of reached a point in time where it's, I want a better turn of phrase, but it's like, you know, if you can't beat them, join them. Because I don't really think you can do anything against these sorts of powerhouses, these financial powerhouses, and Chelsea and what they've done in the market. The markets are just going to get crazier every single year. And that's what I mean. I'm not saying that everything I believed from when City were taken over by an oil state wasn't true, because we all did. We all opposed it correctly. So this is what I mean. Like, you can't be having a go at people in the comments, right? And anybody you see who would be opposed to, who maybe not be opposed, but would have massive fucking concerns about any sort of bid from Qatar or Dubai or Saudi Arabian private investors or anything else. because of what's come before. And it's yeah, I think the video that I did with Nicholas McGeehan, the interview where we spoke about Dubai in quite a lot of detail, I think was probably the best summary of my own feelings of this. Is that I can't personally see anything but a Middle Eastern bid winning and purchasing Manchester United. I think just the scale of investment that they have got, the amount of money that they do have to spend, I think I don't know anybody who's going to be able to outbid them. And Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail saying that Qatar are now going to be formalizing that bid. I'm going to try and read. I'm going to try and pull a few of your comments up down here. It's very, very difficult. Josh, you're going as far as saying you're going to go over to FC United Manchester. Of course, FC United Manchester was founded and existed after the Glazers took over Manchester United back in 2005. But Cash, you're on the complete opposite. You're saying nothing wrong with this. People want a fairy tale takeover. It's never going to happen. Jeff, you're saying as long as it's run like a football club with football people, I don't care. No, you do. Everybody does. Why isn't anyone questioning Ray? How Keegan knows all this? It's a fair point. And I did mention about I didn't question the reliability of Mike Keegan, but it's interesting this is coming from him. And this is something that's going to be very quickly proven to be true or false. And I'll run through exactly why that in a second. The super chat here from D-Train. You're saying this. You said, I tend to agree, Sam. It's unfortunately the way of not football, but just the world. Honestly, I wish nothing more than a Disney takeover of Manchester United. But I can't. Football is not what it once was, and you're not just an old moany bloke by saying that. Everything has changed since QSI bought PSG and Man City were bought by Abu Dhabi, and now Saudi Arabia have bought Newcastle. I know you can morally be opposed to it, but this is the way it's gone. And it's not, I don't think it's going to reverse anytime soon. So and Man United haven't been able to compete with it. And then look what's happened to us over the last 10 or so years. We've just faded into the background. It really is a case of if you want to compete at the very top table in football, it's kind of hard to look past Middle Eastern owners when it at this level and scale. Dave, you're saying, sorry, Sam, bit late. I can't see how Qatar is going to own PSG and us. I will explain that in a little bit more detail. But when it comes to Qatar, right, I don't think this will necessarily be the royal family. This is an article going the whole way back to 2011 when the Al Thani family reportedly put a bid in to buy Manchester United. This, I believe, was around about the same time that they actually went and invested in PSG. So maybe it could have been United at that point instead of PSG. So there's no real suggestion here from Mike Keegan that this will be coming from the Qatar ruling family, the Al Thani family. And that's an important distinction to make. All right, let me try to explain this, because this is where it gets confusing. All right. Chris said, sorry, the super chat from you there. Let me read this out. I'm concerned about FFP practices shown by Middle Eastern owners, hoping that recent events will cause any new owners to act ethically. Chris, when it comes to finances, Man City have had to inflate their finances and their revenues to the scale that it is now. And Manchester United's revenues, as it stands, we're around about 30-40 million short of Man City. So we don't have to bring in random investments and get everything, investments that are owned by our owners and then cook in our books. Our books are already nearly the size of Man City without new owners. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But let me explain this difference, right? Because I know that a lot of you are going to say, how can Qatar own PSG and own Man United? So let me quickly explain this and I'll head back down into the comments after, right? Qatar, they own PSG. Qatar Sports Investment, they own PSG. Now, Qatar Sports Investment is the state-backed sports investment arm of Qatar. It's their way of investing around the world and spreading, not spreading their economy, diversifying their economy away from the reliance on, well, oil, natural resources. And it's their way of investing that money. Now, QSI, let me run through that in a little bit. I've covered that from a Manchester United perspective because The Athletic has confirmed here, this is from Adam Crafton, previously confirmed that there was interest in buying Manchester United. And this is from sources who are close to QSI. And that's why I did this video, and that's why I spoke about it, because the idea of QSI, Qatar Sports Investment, owning Manchester United, a minority stake, and owning PSG, it didn't sit right. It would be a worst case scenario for Manchester United fans. Now, the suggestion here, as I said, by Mike Keegan, is not about QSI buying United. It's about private investors. And that's the big important difference here. Qatari investors. And this is the rule that basically blocks Qatar Sports Investment and Qatar owning PSG and Manchester United. This is UEFA's rule. Member associations shall ensure that neither a natural nor a legal person exercises control or influence over more than one of their clubs whenever the integrity of any match or competition organized at member association level could be jeopardized. That effectively rules out Qatar and Qatar Sports Investment owning PSG and owning Manchester United. However, and again, this is an important distinction, there are different investment arms, if you want to call it that, in Qatar. Now, you've got Qatar Sports Investment, Qatar Investment Authority. The reality is they're both kind of under the same arm. Ben Jacobs here, a journalist, this is what he said. He goes to, again, clarify QSI would not be directly involved in any potential bid. They remain committed to PSG. Nasser Al-Khelaifi, he actually sits on the QIA board. But I think when it comes to looking at this idea of, say, right, well, what's going on here? How on earth can Qatar how can you entertain the conversation of Qatar owning PSG and owning Manchester United? I think what Red Bull have done with Red Bull Leipzig and Red Bull Salzburg, right? They have managed, they're both owned by Red Bull and they are both in the Champions League, which means that the way that they have structured those ownerships doesn't breach UEFA rules. And it's effectively the position that we would be in here when it comes to Qatar, when it comes to Qatari investors, when it comes to Qatari investment. Man, they've got so much money. It's insane. It's crazy how much money they've got. But they would be able to structure it in such a, I've got absolutely no doubt whatsoever, they would be able to structure it in such a way that the rules would not be broken. UEFA's rules would not be broken, and that they could technically do both. I'm going to go down here and quickly bad boy up here. Man, look at that. Fatty and Jay, 2 dons every single day, man. Wow. Aletta, you've been gifted a membership. Blessing. Ishak, who are the lucky 5 up there as well from Fatty. We've got F Scam, we've got Neil, we've got Ben, Crimson, and Flory. Legends, both of you. But what do you think in the comments? This really is going to be, we've spoken about, if I'm being completely honest, right, when it comes to Middle Eastern states and the interest there's been in Manchester United, we've had Dubai was probably the first name that came forward, and I spoke about that in quite a lot of detail. I did the interview with Nick, and I've done other content around it too. Saudi Arabia, I covered that after Saudi Arabia's sports minister said that they would welcome and they would back Saudi private bids to buy United. So in the same way that we're having a conversation here about Qatar, we're probably going to have the same conversation around Saudi Arabia. And Lita, I mean, I'm putting this comment up because it's caught my eye. How am I doing that? I'm telling you that I've got issues as a United fan, and every United fan of a certain age who grew up through that city, you fucking will have those issues. All right. And I'd actually be more surprised than anything if you didn't have any issues. If all of a sudden you were looking at Qatar going, oh, sweet, oil money. Yeah, bruv, here we go. That would be weirder. Just because you've got concerns doesn't mean that you're going to dismiss the concept of them as potential owners. But we have to have concerns. I mean, just as much as you'd have concerns about Jim Ratcliffe. Shit, I've done a whole video on concerns about Jim Ratcliffe. If you want to come accusing me, it's a really difficult thing to talk about, man. Fucking hell. Loads of difficult things at the moment at United. Jibak, you're saying the Qatar sports minister said that they would back private. I don't know whether that was Qatar, whether that was Saudi Arabia. But there's absolutely no doubt that they would back private investors. And according to Mike Keegan, that private investment's coming forward. Now, as I said, when it comes to all the links from Middle Eastern states that we've spoken about, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, Qatar is the one that we know full well the Glazers have been in conversations with. Avram Glazer has been pictured not only once, but twice in 2 separate visits to Qatar. I'm here for the football. I wasn't there. No, you weren't, mate. Why are you lying? We knew full well they weren't there for the football. And of course, Qatar spent an absolute bucket load of money on the World Cup. We're talking in excess of $200 billion they spent to host that World Cup. Clearly, they are looking to, as I said, change the image, and we can have a conversation about sports washing. I've had conversations about it before, and I will no doubt have conversations about it again in the future. Let me go down there. I think Avram's just bought a cricket club as well, isn't he? I think he has. Remember, he cashed out a ton of his money. Bully, what are you saying, sir? You're saying you wanted Jim Ratcliffe at first, but now not that bothered. As long as they do right by us in getting what we very much need, let them put the cash down. I can't wait to see the Glazers walk out of the door. See, part of me agrees with that, Bully, but look, you can at the very same time as wanting the Glazers out and just wanting what the best is for Manchester United, have concerns about every single new owner. And as I said, whether that would be Jim Ratcliffe, whether that would be Dubai, whether that would be Saudi Arabian private investors, whether that would be Qatar private investors, I'm sure there are plenty of concerns that people may or would have about Apple taking over the club, about Amazon taking over the club. There will basically be. It's because there will be no perfect owner. I call Jim Ratcliffe the Disney owner. The idea of a lad born 10 miles from Old Trafford growing up to become Britain's richest man. Yeah, it is Disney. But when it comes to the money involved and the numbers linked to anything to do with Qatar or Saudi or Dubai, we've always questioned whether or not Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe will be able to compete with that. Ray, you're saying, I don't mind anyone from the Middle East. I just don't want a city-style business. I mean, that's a bit of a confusing comment there, Ray, because that's exactly what it is. The city-style business is someone from the Middle East. And I've said there's quite a lot of good that City's owners have done. There's a good point there from Rolex, right? I'm going to put this up again now. Let's put a poll out. Who do you want as United's new owners? Right. I'm going to go for, in my opinion, the 4 leading different possibilities. That's Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. That's probably Dubai. I put Qatar there, and I'll probably just put US Consortium as a group in itself, because there's pretty much too many. There's too many names linked with that one there to put one name forward, right? So I'm going to put that poll down there in the comments, right? And you can let me know what you think, because this is definitely a conversation which we're going to be having more of these. I've said that as if we all know it. We know that February is that deadline that's going to come forward. And I tell you what, I would expect to come forward after this. It's probably something to do with this. David Beckham, of course, was as an ambassador of the Qatar World Cup. got a lot of criticism for it, kind of stayed quiet the whole time, I believe, during the World Cup, and then spoke a little bit about it after. But David Beckham is an ambassador with Qatar. And if this does go forward and Qatar private investors, as I said, there's been a lot of hype and a lot of conversation around the Al Thani ruling family, and they are worth in excess of $300 billion. The suggestion here is that it's going to be Qatari private investors. But if we're being completely honest, and we're all intelligent people, private investors, they're going to have ties and links to the ruling family in the same way that if Saudi private investors, they come in and bid for Manchester United, they are doing so probably with the permission of the ruling family. So that although they are going to be as far as the legal entity goes, would be separated, there would be some connection there too. But we'd be fools to try and suggest otherwise. Ray, you're saying what I mean by that was not breaking ethnic. Oh, yeah. Well, that in itself. I don't personally think that we as United fans need to worry too much about our new owners breaking FFP rules. Reason I'm saying that is because of how sustainable Manchester United is. I mean, look, I say it's sustainable. We're losing £2.5 million a week at this moment in time. So it's not that sustainable. It's because our costs have got wildly out of control. But we generate enough revenue as it stands to nearly, well, as I said, we're 30-40 million short of Man City, who are generating the biggest revenue in club football. We're a far, far, far bigger club than City will ever be, and a far bigger club than when City were bought. Shit, when City were bought, they were getting pumped 8-1 by Middlesbrough. The amount of money required to get City up to where they are now is nothing compared to the amount of money that needs to go into Manchester United. I'm going to read a few of your comments out down here, right? Let me pull this photo up. It's a kind of appropriate photo to have on here. Fred, you're saying, Sam, now how having a bucket load of cash will we get around the financial rules to spend it? Remember that the financial rules have changed this year. FFP is not quite what FFP was. There's 3 different arms to it. One's about sustainability, one's about spending, one's about, I think you can now only spend 70% of your revenue on player weight. It's all got a little bit confusing. And it's all designed to help a little bit more. That's what it's supposed to be. Harry, you're saying same as if Dubai bought us, they would have links with City's owners, as that all has ties to the UAE government. It's a really confusing situation. And as I said, down here in the comments, when you're having conversations with any fan, you need... every fan is entitled to their opinion on this one. And I'm not here to tell anybody who the best new owner is. I've tried to present, and I always try to. I appreciate that my opinion definitely creeps in sometimes. Shit, it's impossible not to. But I do try and present the facts as much as possible. And when it comes to our new owners, ultimately, every single United fan shares the same ambition, right? Get United back to the top. Get United to win the Premier League, win the Champions League. Fuck it, do another treble. We all want the same thing. But sometimes from in your head as a fan, the path to get there is different. And I think that's what it is. Everybody's going to have a preference on our new owner. I don't know who my preference is anymore. I think the idea of Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I've always called it a Disney. I've always called it a Disney takeover, a Disney owner, because it is. It really is. But I've also got to step back into reality of what football is at the moment, especially the Premier League, and where it's only going to continue to go in the next few years. And I'll say, would Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe be able to compete and compare with what's going around us, with Newcastle, with City, with Liverpool when they probably get new investment, although that's sounding like it's going to be a minority investment, and with Chelsea. The reality is maybe not. Let me see what you're saying down here in the comments. 54 Dunk, I know you're not the only person who feels that. You literally, because of what we've had in it, and again, that's really driving a lot of the feeling and sentiment towards new owners. It's a case of anyone's better than the Glazers because of how disgustingly the Glazers have ran our football club, and they've leached, they've sucked the blood out of this club. They really, really have. They've sucked this club dry. Ethan, you're saying, look, it's laughable that City thought they could get away with posting revenue. Mate, that honestly makes me laugh every time I think about it. Like, Real Madrid won the Champions League that year, and they are the biggest, Real Madrid probably are the biggest club in the world. Right up there. It's either Real Madrid, United, or Barca. It's one of those three, and it's nobody else. Liverpool, you can have fourth. But City put more revenue than them. It's like, did you really think you wouldn't? I mean, come on. Talk about shit criminals. That's what I said. Really shit criminals. John, you're saying in the final analysis, it doesn't matter who we want. The Glazers will go for the highest bid. And I think that's probably part of it. It's not part of me. I don't want to be accused of flip-flapping and changing my opinion and X, Y, Z. I think it's just that as soon as Dubai came in and I really, really thought about it, I just realized that I just don't think there's anybody that's going to be able to compete with the Middle Eastern bids if or when they came in. Now, we're hearing that a Qatari bid is going to be coming very, very shortly. It's the 8th of February. We know full well that we've got the deadline. The Rain Group have said that deadline of the 31st of March, the end of Q1. That's when the Glazers would like to have Manchester United sold. We have new owners in. So the bids are going to be coming in mid-Feb. The interest is, and then Qatar, apparently, it's going to come from now. I'm going to go down to the poll now, see what you're thinking. I'll pull up a few more of your comments and we can continue this conversation. How many bids have we had so far? Let's have a look. We've had 1,100 votes. We've got 50% saying Qatar. We've got 33% saying Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. We've got 15% saying Dubai. And I want to know, I want to know what 1% voted for the US consortium. None of that, unless there's a Glazer watching the channel. Let's have a see. And I know, look, I know you like to try and say that it's not politics, but you can't separate the two anymore. People try to. People love to say, keep politics out of football. Okay, it's not possible anymore. Everything's got repercussions. Al, again, I know you're not the only. I know you're not the only person that says that. As long as we've got we're a good, well-run club, good players, nice stadium, I'm fine with it. Let me see what else you're saying down here. Whatever the Glazers have to do, they should better do it now. All I want is Arab money, Qatar all the way, says Kelvin. Rome wasn't built in a day. Give Jim a chance. Apple, apple, apple. Okay, let's be the only ones to have owners wanting a return on investments while our rivals leave us mid-table consistently. And Declan, that's kind of the conversation that I've been having this morning. It's not a case of if you can't beat them, join them, but it is a case of truly understanding the landscape of modern day football. That's what's changed. That is what has significantly changed since City were bought by Abu Dhabi and what they've done. Since Qatar were bought by PSG and what they've done. Since Saudi Arabia have bought Newcastle and what they will do over the next 5 to 10 years. How do we compete with those without directly competing with those? With the idea of potential Qatari or Saudi or Dubai investors. That's part of it's a major part of my thought process now. And let me know in the comments. Do you think that financially there is an alternative that could compete on that level? Because it's It's just the scope of it's what it is. It's what football is. You might not like it. I don't like it. But it's fucking there. That's what football has become. I wish it hadn't been the case, but it's the truth. Hans, you're saying I would rather have the Glazers than zero human rights oil Qatar. Do we want to become City? And Hans, I know you're not going to be the only person that has a feeling about that. Let me see what he's saying down here. Nobody wants US investors, says Wild Wolf. Well, apparently 2% of people do. Unbelievable, Jeff. Hey, look, we've got nearly 3,000 of you watching right now. If you're new to United People's TV, welcome aboard. I'd love to have you as part of the community. Please join in. Look, Eric Ten Hag, he's got a very thin face. Needs to get a new Eric Ten Hag mask, but that's the Stam shirt. Big up to you, Matt, for sending that across. I thought I'd put the hat on him as well. You think a new owner would invest in a new stadium and many matches in the Middle East? Well, you can absolutely expect matches to go over the Middle East if we were bought by Qatar. That is absolutely going to happen. And you're saying the only feasible alternative would be Apple, and that every single billionaire is a billionaire. Every single company is a billion-dollar company because they've stood on people on the way up to the top. You don't become a billionaire by being a nice person. There is not a nice billionaire. No offense to all billionaires. Maybe there are some rare ones, very rare ones, but not particularly. Let me see what you're saying down here. I don't think our new owner would be dumb enough to put a stunt like City. Look, it wouldn't be required at Manchester United, is the point I keep saying. Man City's revenue. Somebody, I'm sure you can do a little bit of research, right? What was Man City's revenues in 2008 and compared them to now? I suppose Manchester United's revenues would have been significantly lower in 2008. That's a fair point, and that's a given. But the scale of investment required at City is like taking a championship club and turning them into Champions League winners. Which, by the way, that's the hilarious part of it. All this money that's coming from Qatar in PSG and Abu Dhabi with City, and they still haven't won the fucking Champions League. I hope they never do. I really, really hope they never do. I mean, they probably will at some point. Let's be completely and utterly honest. Wow. Vicky, nice to see you there. You've been in and out, but it's lovely to see that, man. Gifting 10 memberships. That's an amazing way to bring yourself back in. Everyone say thank you very much to Vicky. Jeff, Piyush, Ashik, Oliver, Blacks, Ian, Old School Game Cat. Do cats play games? I don't know. And Gungshi as well, man. Jeez. Godfather's back. Mo, Sibbo, Siegs, Darren, V. Got Shannon, Nasir. Man, so many different names as well. Absolute legends, both of you. I love this community. I really, really do. Today, I will... Look, as I said, not everybody's got time to join in these live shows in the morning. I absolutely love doing these live shows. Not everyone's got time to join in. So I will be doing this in a short form video going out later on today. That's going to go out at lunchtime today. It's going to summarize this whole Qatar situation in 10 minutes. But there's no doubt that Manchester United is one of the crown jewels of football. At the very, very top, there are a few clubs. We're talking about United. We're talking about Real Madrid. We're talking about Barcelona. You're probably talking about Liverpool. And maybe I think you can put Bayern Munich in that category as well. There's 4 or 5 clubs at the absolute pinnacle in terms of brands around the world. I hate to use business terms, but that's kind of what it is. So, of course, there's going to be interest in buying Manchester United. And Qatar, as a country, they spent over 200 billion on hosting the World Cup. We know full well that the Glazers have been holding talks in Qatar on more than one occasion. It's the most, well, I've spoken previously, and again, I don't need to explain all this again. I'm not going to repeat myself, but we've spoken about the idea of minority ownership and the dangers that would pose to our club. But this is about a full takeover. This is about a full takeover of Manchester United. Rob, seriously, I know. It's it really is a very, very complicated and difficult conversation from every angle when it comes to our new owners. Tony, you're saying, Sam, be honest. I know you're against Qatar. Don't be afraid of you. I'm not afraid of my viewers. Tony, I can't rule anybody out. I can't, because everybody is open at this particular point in time. I can have my preference. I've made it clear who my preference is. I've spoken about Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos previously on multiple different occasions. But I'm also based in reality. And I don't really think that at this point in time, when Qatar comes to the table, when Dubai or Saudi Arabia comes to the table with their private investors, do I really think that Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos can compete at that point? I don't think they can. And therefore, I've got to speak about the idea of these potential different investors, of these potential new owners of Manchester United. Let me read a couple more of your comments down here. All right. Would Man United be able to play PSG in Europe? Yeah, they would be. As I said, it's about private investment from Qatar, not from the Qatar sports investment. They are the diversification arm of Qatar state. That's how they invest elsewhere. It wouldn't be them that bought Manchester United. It would be private investors. Now, of course, we're all smart people. They're going to have links somewhere, but their lawyers are good enough that they would manage to set the structure up according to the rules. They probably wouldn't break it. Let me see what else down there. But it's to a certain point, yes. There's going to have to be an acceptance once the owners are new. But in the same way that there wasn't an acceptance of the Glazers and the protests that happened before it, there will be protests, I imagine, if anything to do with a Middle Eastern state by Manchester United happens. I would absolutely expect that to happen. Fatty, you're saying you're going to give everybody a chance. And Stevie is saying that as much as we want a moral takeover of the club, the Glazers will sell to the biggest bidders. And that's a big thing, right? Imagine here that every single one of us were all united behind the idea of Jim Ratcliffe. Stevie's right. Ultimately, it wouldn't matter if the bid from Jim Ratcliffe was $1 billion less than whatever comes in elsewhere. The Glazers want the biggest cash out possible. They don't care. They would hand it over. They would hand the club over to anybody who gives them the most money. That's their prerogative. That's their priority. That's what they want. They don't really care about whether or not Manchester United is handed over to the best new owners. It's not in their interest. All they care about is how many zeros are in their bank account. Andrew, as I said, I don't think United fans will be sitting down and just accepting what happens there. In the same way that we, as a fan base, protested about the Glazers before the Glazers even took over the club and continued to protest, I imagine there will be protests, and I imagine they'll be pretty fucking loud as well. If this accelerates past this point, if we do see that Qatar come forward, if we do see that Dubai or Saudi Arabia come forward, this is going to be a very, very interesting few months as a Manchester United fan. All right. It really, really is. Right. I'm going to wrap that conversation up at this point, because I don't just want to get now dragged into a sort of a live argument, debate. It depends what you call it. But look, there's some important stuff that we need to speak about from a transfer perspective. And also, maybe we play Leeds tonight. The Premier League, we're in action tonight. We've got a game in less than 12 hours. Casemiro suspended. And now what? Actually, sod that. I was going to speak about this article from James Ducker. Yeah, James Ducker, when he's speaking about how Manchester United are going to be torn between Kane and Osimhen. But I imagine that's a conversation we can probably have the day after. But we need to speak about the game tonight. That's what we need to speak about the last 5-10 minutes of this show. Or what you're saying here, you're saying, I have no issue with a rich Middle Eastern billionaire buying a club if they were not influenced by the state. But I'm almost certain it's not. I think we could all have basically tell ourselves, if Qatari private investors or Saudi Arabia private investors, if they came in, they'd be like, oh, it's not the state. It's just, it's rich private investors from that country. They're separate. And we can tell ourselves that if we really want to tell ourselves that. Whereas in reality, we all know full well that there's going to be links, there's going to be ties. Very much if it's Saudi private investment, they're doing that with the blessing of the Saudi state. If it's going to be Qatar private investment, they are doing that with the blessing of the Qatar state. They might not be linked directly, but you know full well that they are. All right? You know full well that they are. Let's speak about this game against Leeds tonight, right? As I said, Leeds, who are playing with 3 managers, Chris Armas, I don't know who the other 2 are. They have they've sacked Jesse Marsh. They've got no manager. They've got no manager in. I don't think we're going to be seeing a new manager bounce tonight. Yeah, famous last words. This was my predicted 11 for the game tonight, which I did yesterday. I think we're going to be sticking with that back 5. I don't see a reason to change it. You may well see Diogo Dalot come in at right back if he's completely fit to play. I don't know whether he's completely fit to play. But I've gone for a back 5 there. I've gone for Fred. Now, this is going to be the interesting one. I don't know who's going to be playing deeper. I think it's going to be Fred, Sabitzer, and Bruno in midfield, right? I don't know who's going to be the man playing further forward. You may well see Sabitzer playing behind Fred and sort of trying to be the person who's going to screen. That's kind of what he did when he came on against Crystal Palace, wasn't it? He was running around in this area, but United were kind of banked in their own half. I don't know whether it's going to be Sabitzer playing further forward or Fred playing further forward. Gungshi, I completely agree with you there. I'm looking forward to seeing him in action. And I really am just looking forward to... Isn't it just great watching United these days? It really, really is. I reckon we're going to see that front 3. I think we're going to be seeing Jadon Sancho start. I really hope we see Jadon Sancho start. Anthony is missing. He's got a minor thigh injury, I think it is. So I can't imagine it's going to be too much of a problem. I think it'll be Rashford on the left. I think it'll be Weghorst through the middle. Now, you could well see this. Right, this is a potential option. You could well see that instead. Weghorst down on the bench with Garnacho on the left and Rashford through the middle. For a lot of you, I know you would actually prefer that. I think Erik ten Hag likes the dynamic that happens when United have the ability to bring on... Oh, not Garnacho. No, Garnacho. Garnacho made such a difference against Palace. I think we're starting like that tonight. What's your prediction, right? Fire your predictions in. I think that... I went as far as to say I want United to absolutely humiliate Leeds tonight. So much so that I think the video got demonetized on Facebook because they saw the word humiliating it. And you're not allowed that. I probably shouldn't have used the word humiliate. But I did. Oh, well. Look, Leeds are... The only reason Leeds aren't in the relegation zone is because of goal difference. They're in 17th. They're having an absolutely abysmal season. Leeds, even when they were playing well, would concede chances left, right, and centre against us. The 4-2 away last season. Remember when McTominay scored 2 goals in 6 minutes against Leeds at Old Trafford? I think it should... I'm going for a 4-0. I'm going to head down here and I'm going to check out your predictions as well. But that's not an arrogant prediction. That's just a prediction of how Manchester United are right now. We've won 13 games in a row at Old Trafford. It's time we start walking out, shoulders back, chest up. Hell yeah. Do that. Have that confidence to go out there and think you are going to steamroll through a team. 5-0 United demolition. Oh, I'll tell you what. Seems like my my propaganda is working down here because everybody's feeling pretty... Well, I'm not that confident. Feeling pretty confident down here in the comments. Wow, 4-0, 4-1, 2-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-1, 2-1. I think United should absolutely be putting Leeds to the sword. Chris Armas in as they've got 3 caretaker managers. They've only sacked their manager, 36 hours ago? They don't have enough time to bring a new manager in. They can't have a new manager bounce. They may well have a new manager bounce by Sunday. All right? When we go to play Leeds at Ellen Road, that'll be a harder game. This game tonight, this should be where United... Hey, look, we scored early against Crystal Palace, right? And then we didn't just sod that. Tonight is where we score in the first 15 minutes and we're 3-0 up by half-time. I want that whitewash, pad down. Everyone used to do that at uni? I used to do that at uni. you were 3-0 down at halftime on FIFA, you had to put the pad down. That happened to me quite a lot. I'll be completely honest. Last couple of minutes of every single show, you know what it is. Fire in your comments, fire in your questions. I'm going to bring on a few more of your comments. 3 caretaker managers, so greedy. We'll give them 2 goals each. We'll beat them 6-0. 4-0 with a hat-trick from Rashford. I hope so, because I think I've got Rashford in my fantasy team as captain because we played twice this week. Jeez. Connor, you're going for a 5-1, 3-2, 3-1. Look, whatever it is, I think United need to be absolutely smashing Leeds and putting them away. And without Casemiro. Come on, Sabitzer. Come on, baby. Yep, Zevro, man, this is it. And it's not misplaced confidence. It's not all which United will turn up. We can confidently say that this United team will put in a good performance tonight. We don't know what Leeds are going to turn up, right? So we don't know how good or bad they're going to be, and that might affect the result somewhat. But we can have confidence in how United are playing, in how Rashford is scoring, and how our defense is playing. Jay Shaw, I'm sure if you want to know how to give some memberships, thank you very much, dude, for asking. The mods will help you. It's quite simple. I'm pretty sure you can only do it on a computer. I don't think you can do it on your mobile. I don't know why, but I don't really know. Let me see what you're saying down here in the comments. Hey, Michael, it is. I don't want to go. I think I've said it a couple of times. I don't want to say it until like the end of the season, but 13 wins in succession. And inside that 13, that includes beating Spurs, is it? It includes beating City. It's a very, very, very good run of form. Does it go back to Arsenal as well and Liverpool? I don't think it goes back to Arsenal and Liverpool. When was the last time we lost? I can't remember. Let me see what else you're saying down here in the comments before we wrap up the show. The game is... Matt, the game's not on... You know how dumb it is? The hardest place to watch the Premier League is in England, or where the Premier League is. The most expensive place to watch the Premier League is in England, where the Premier League is. It's weird. Domestic fans are given the worst treatment and the most expensive treatment. It's not on TV tonight because when the first set of fixtures were released, for some reason, United and Leeds wasn't chosen, but as a TV fixture. So the fact that it's been rescheduled until now, obviously it was postponed after the Queen died, is irrelevant. Apparently, we're the only game on TV. We're the only game playing today, and it's not on TV in England. You know how dumb that is. You know how dumb that is. Vin, you're talking about that last 20 minutes being the United of old. Squeaky bum time it was, but with Martinez in that team, I've said it to you before. I'll say it again. That's when you see the best of Martinez. That's when you see the best of Martinez. What are you saying down here in the comments? Was it Real Sociedad in September? Jeez. It's on in Denmark. Well, there you go. That's what I mean. You can watch it around the world, but you can't watch it. You can't watch it in England. It's so dumb. It really, really is so dumb. Hey, look, I'll wrap this one up for today. As I said, Marcus, you're damn right I'm obsessed with Martinez. Why wouldn't I be? He's legitimately one of the best centre-backs in the whole of the Premier League. And we've had him for like 7 months. I'm like, that obsession is going to stay for a while. Sorry. Not sorry. I've spoken about the Qatar investment report coming from Mike Keegan, the private Qatar investment, not QSI. And as I said, Qatar Sports Investment, that's the state arm, and they own PSG. The reports are that it wouldn't be that minority investment. It would be a majority full takeover of Manchester United from Qatar, and that bid's going to come in the next few days. Well, then, let's find out. I'll bring you reports on that as and when it happens. I'm going to be doing this in a short video that's going to go out at lunchtime today. I apologize if you think that I sort of repeat content, but I understand that people consume their content differently. So many of you love joining in one of these morning streams, and it's one of my favorite parts. It's probably my favorite part of the day, this hour we have every morning. Not everybody's got time for that. That's why I make those 10-minute short informative videos so people can get everything inside a 10-minute period. And I'm also starting to do the shorter content too for people who don't even have 10 minutes. Everybody consumes content differently. That's why I do different types of content. Live shows, more informed shows, and now doing short videos as well. February is going to be mad. It really is. All the football we've got 6 games left. We've got tonight against Leeds, Sunday against Leeds, then Barcelona away, then Leicester at home, then Barcelona away, and then a League Cup final. On top of that, we've got all the sale talks. Qatar, we spoke about today. I imagine we're going to have a conversation about Saudi Arabia at some point in the next week or so. Because if there's private investment bids coming in from Qatar, the same thing will happen from Saudi. I'll be very surprised if it didn't. But thank you all for tuning in. If you are new, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you as part of the community. And big up to Vicky, big up to Gungshi, Jay, and Fatty, I think it was as well. Anybody who gifted memberships, you're all legends. What a community. Speak to you soon.